Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Glad you could all join us on Pushing the Limits, and we are broadcasting everywhere, of course. I like to remind everybody, not just on the FM AM dial on KSHP, but I love it when we get calls all over the country, really all over the world, and very appreciative on the Occupy Democrats platform, on the Washington Press platform as well, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. We're all over the place, and we're glad you make us a part of your afternoon, depending on where you're calling from, depending on where you're listening from, and we have a big show lined up for you today. And boy, do we have a lot to get to. A lot going on Capitol Hill today, no question about that. Certainly talk a little bit about how Peter Navarro is wearing an orange jumpsuit this morning, eating his grilled cheese sandwich. We'll definitely talk about that, and what did Peter Navarro have to say before he headed to jail is absolutely hilarious, but yet not surprising. We will talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. So, to start the show, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the Occupy Democrats Network. It's a cup of coffee, $5 a month. You get extra content from yours truly and my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. So I want to talk a little bit about this Don Lemon Elon Musk interview because I really didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday. In full disclosure, I'll start off by saying this. I'm not a big Don Lemon fan. Do I think he's this horrible guy, monster? No, I don't. I think he's a decent guy. I think he's okay. I never looked at Don Lemon or listened to Don Lemon and watched Don Lemon back in the days when he was on CNN and said, wow, that guy's really good. He's okay. I don't think he's great at interviewing people. He's all right. Obviously, he leans way to the left, but I'll take Don Lemon and I'll take what he has to say about issues facing this country and the world over somebody like a Sean Hannity. I don't think Don Lemon deliberately lies on the air like people on Fox Noise do. But that being said, I never thought that Don Lemon was this incredible talent and is so great at interviewing people. But I will give him credit. I thought he really did a good job, and I think it was one of his best interviews of his career in interviewing Elon Musk. Why? Well, if you don't know the story, X offered Don Lemon a show, the Don Lemon Show exclusively on X, right? And they were willing to pay him a lot of money to do this show. And his first big interview with Elon Musk. And it's why Elon Musk agreed to do the interview, because they had just signed a contract with Don Lemon, exclusive content on X. Elon Musk doesn't do a lot of sit-down interviews these days, and I think we finally figured out why. But Lemon did a really good job in this interview, and I watched the interview, which is about an hour. I watched it several times now, because even though technically this is Don Lemon's boss, right? He didn't hold back in challenging Elon Musk on a lot of controversial things that Elon Musk has said in the past. Could be about race, could be about transgenders, you name it, DEI. And Don Lemon pushed back on some of the things that Elon Musk said, which is not an easy thing to do, but I guess it's a little easier when CNN pays you almost $30 million to leave. So Don Lemon's not really worried about his financial situation, and I think that helps a little bit, but I still give Don Lemon credit. Now, I want to break down this interview because if you're on the far right and you're a conspiracy theorist and you're a bigot, you'll probably say, oh, Elon Musk destroyed Don Lemon. But I'd like to think if you're a reasonable person with a brain, whether you're on the left or the right, and you're a decent human being and you're for equality, you'll understand that Elon Musk was exposed, in my opinion, for being the bigot that he is. Do we remember the controversy that took place on that airplane where the door fell off the airplane? Well, Don Lemon asked him about that, and the reason why he asked him about this situation because it pertains to DEI, and Elon Musk made some very controversial comments on X about minorities in that industry, saying that the standards were lowered, implying that minorities are getting jobs as pilots on planes that are not up to the standard that they should be held to. Some people would call that being blatantly racist and bigoted in nature because there's no proof to back that up. Don Lemon asked him about that.
Okay.
So listen, after the door blew off this mid-flight in this Alaskan Airlines flight, do you remember that? You responded in a post claiming that the average HBCU grad was less intelligent than the average airline pilot, and stated that it will take an airplane crashing and killing hundreds of people for them to change this crazy policy of DIE. I don't know if did you misspell it on purpose, which it should be DEI. Do you believe that women and minority pilots are inherently less intelligent and less skilled than white male pilots?
No, I'm just saying that we should not lower the standards for them.
Okay. But there's no evidence that standards are being lowered when it comes to the
Okay.
airline industry.
You've repeatedly said that there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, and watch the replies showing all the evidence that it is.
Replies, though, on social media or on Twitter are not necessarily fact and evidence.
No, they will
That's people's
they will
opinion.
cite
Okay.
all the reply,
see.
in the replies to this. You will see how often the information is cited, showing that indeed there are significant cases where standards are lowered.
Not true. Don Lemon is 150% correct, and he catches Elon Musk in a lie. The standards are not being lowered. And do you see how Elon Musk tries to defend his ridiculous stupidity? I don't care how much money this guy has. He's wrong. And then the immediate response from a guy like a conspiracy theorist in Elon Musk is, look at all the comments. He's talking about clownish comments on social media from people on X who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And that's his defense for coming up with these bigoted statements. The standards are not being lowered. Less than 10% of those in this industry happen to be black to begin with. Those numbers have not gone up in the last couple years, and the standards are not lowered. Oh, yeah, by the way, it was a female pilot who landed the plane safely, but Elon Musk doesn't want to give her credit for that. He wants to say the standards were lowered when the employees had absolutely nothing to do with this door that came off on this plane. Boeing already admitted it was their fault. It had nothing to do with the employees. And yet Elon Musk goes on social media and says, oh, the standards are being lowered, and he's attacking the intelligence of some of these employees that happen to be minorities. And this race issue continues.
In practice.
I think we're doing better than anywhere else.
That's true. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages did my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that many people of color don't. You were able to come to this country voluntarily. There are many people who were not able to come to the country voluntarily. There are people who came here as slaves.
For me to come here.
And there is a legacy of slavery that still continues on. There's a legacy of racism that still continues on in this country. That's undeniable.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away. If we keep making that the central thing, it will never go away.
Why do you believe that?
I think I'm just making a simple statement of fact. So I think we want to get away from making everything a race or a gender or whatever issue, and just treat people like individuals.
Now, that might sound nice in theory, but do you notice at the beginning, Elon Musk is so complicit, he can't even admit the fact that maybe he had a few more advantages because of what he looks like than maybe someone who's a minority in this country. He's so complicit and ignorant to what racism actually is. When Don Lemon says, you've had some advantages maybe over somebody that looks like me, Elon Musk is, oh, really? What advantages have I had? He doesn't listen to black people. He doesn't listen to people that look different from him. It's called being complicit. And, again, how can anybody in this country that looks like Elon Musk say, you know what, I might have a few more advantages than maybe a minority in this country? But Elon Musk has never admitted that. He never will admit that. And then he responds by saying, let's not talk about this. Let's make this go away. Well, guess what? Victims in this country of hate crimes, and there's many people in this country that have been victims of racism, bigotry, maybe what sex you are, maybe if you're transgender, maybe the color of your skin, maybe your religion. Most people in this country that don't look like Elon Musk have been victims of racism, some forms of bigotry. But if you're Elon Musk, who probably hasn't faced any of that his entire life, he just wants everything to go away. He wants everybody to shut up. You were the victim of racism? Let's move on. Don't want to hear about it because it's never going to go away if you're still talking about it. Really? What would have happened if you had said that to Martin Luther King back in the day? Mr. King, Dr. King, let's not talk about race. Let's let it go away on its own. Let's move towards the future. No, if not for Martin Luther King, it's very, very possible that black people would still be having to use certain fountains and would have to sit on the back of buses. Very, very possible. But Dr. Martin Luther King didn't do that, did he? He stood up, he spoke out. Now, I'm not trying to compare Martin Luther King to Don Lemon, okay? Two very different individuals. But what I am trying to say is people that bring up race, people that bring up hate and bigotry, it's not a bad thing, especially if they're right. And in this case, Don Lemon is right. And Elon Musk, not only will he not address it and admit it, he wants everybody to go away as far as talking about it. He just wants to move on. Oh, let's not talk about that. Spoken like a true racist. That's what many racists in this country feel. Let's not talk about genders. Let's not talk about race. Oh, really? You just want to ignore it? Tell that to Ahmaud Arbery's family. Let's not talk about race. Let's not talk about victim. We don't want to hear of victimhood. Well, of course, Elon Musk doesn't want to talk about that. The guy's one of the richest people in the world. America's treated him pretty good. But he doesn't want to hear Don Lemon talk about race. And this conversation continues, and I give Don Lemon credit because he doesn't let him off the hook.
But not all cases. And I think that not understanding the history of the country, I think, is a real shame. Look,
We should understand the history of the country and other countries.
I've had incredible opportunities as a person of color.
Right.
But I've also
You're doing very well.
But I've also been discriminated against, and I know that I have. And I know that that's real. And for someone to say that that isn't happening, I should just move forward and not think about that and ignore the past is insulting.
I'm not saying it. Don, you keep putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying it's
I didn't say that you said it.
I'm saying that we want to. We as a country should move beyond questions of race and gender, and we should treat people like individuals and base our opinions on them on the, their character and their skills.
I don't think that anyone will disagree with that.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is that that's not happening and is not equal for everyone. That those opportunities don't happen for everyone. And I am a living example that they don't. I know that they don't because I live it.
You've been incredibly successful.
I have been,
and
in spite of it all. But I know what I know. I've experienced what I've experienced. You haven't done that. And I cannot, I don't know what it's like to be from South Africa. I don't know what it's like to be a white man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a Latino person. I don't know that. So I wouldn't speak for them and just say, you need to move on. That's not for me to say.
So he's 100% correct. And I use the term complicit because if you noticed in that response, Elon Musk says, well, wait a second, Don Lemon, you've been very successful. Meaning, well, wait a second, you have a good job and you're making a lot of money. You can't be a victim. That's the way racists think. It doesn't matter whether you have a lot of money and you're successful. Somebody who is a minority in this country can still be a victim. Just because you're successful financially in the job market doesn't mean you can't be a victim no more than somebody who's poor. If you're black, you're black. If you're transgender, you're transgender. If you're gay, you're gay. It doesn't matter how successful you are. Right? Pete Buttigieg talks about this all the time. An openly gay man, extremely successful, working in the Joe Biden administration. He's still the victim of hate and bigotry because he happens to be gay. There's very successful people, even people on the right. Somebody like Tim Scott, who a few years ago said, and by the way, you won't find a more staunch Republican with no backbone than Tim Scott, but he happens to be black, and he said he remembers being pulled over a dozen times in 1 year because of the color of his skin. Very successful guy, but according to Elon Musk, well, wait a second. You can't be the victim of hate and bigotry because you look at how successful you are, Don Lemon. And Don Lemon is right, and he pushes back. Yes, I am very successful, and I've had some great opportunities, but I still know what I know, meaning I know that people at times still treat me differently because of the color of my skin. And I listen to people like that. I don't know what it's like to be followed in an electronics store because I'm white. But some black people that I talk to have had that experience happen to them. Imagine if you're with your girlfriend, your wife, your family, and you're being followed in a store because the employees are racially profiling you and thinking this person might shoplift because they're black. Imagine being pulled over by a police officer for no other reason other than the color of your skin. I would be irate. I don't know what that feels like. I've never been a victim of that because I'm white. And Elon Musk refuses to understand that. He looks at Don Lemon and he says, well, wait a second. Here's a successful guy. No, Don Lemon got to where he's at because he worked hard, I would imagine. He got the job at CNN. He was at CNN for many years. And even though I'm not a huge fan of Don Lemon, I think he's made some mistakes, at times says some ridiculous things. But he's not a stupid guy. He's educated, got his education, and has worked hard to get to where he is. Doesn't mean you still can't be the victim of a hate crime. It doesn't mean you still can't be the victim of racism. It doesn't mean Don Lemon still can't be racially profiled. And that's what he was trying to explain to Elon Musk. But people will look at Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk has so much money and power, he's never challenged by anybody. Sure, people will criticize him on X. He doesn't pay attention to that. People will criticize him at times in the media. He doesn't pay attention to that. But face-to-face interaction, how many people have actually challenged Elon Musk? And when Elon Musk is actually challenged, and Don Lemon was respectful, but I thought he did a really good job in challenging Elon Musk gets shaken, and he got upset. And I'll get to that, the reason why Don Lemon is no longer doing a show on X. But this was the part of the interview where it really went south, because Don Lemon appropriately brings up the fact that they've had plenty of advertisers on X, especially recently, that have pulled their advertising. Why? Well, in my personal opinion, X has gotten worse since Elon Musk has took it over. Now, he claims that he took over X because of freedom of speech. Makes absolutely no sense, because X is a private business. Freedom of speech only pertains to the government. Why is it so many people on the right struggle to understand that? Example. You can go on a public sidewalk or really anywhere on public property and hold up a sign that says, I hate white people. I hate black people. Now, I wouldn't never do something like that because I'm not a bigoted person. But the government can't interfere. That's what freedom of speech pertains to, the government, not private business. There are always going to be actions for your words. For example, if that person was employed at, say, an insurance company, he's on a public sidewalk, the government can't interfere. He can't be arrested. But if his bosses see him and they think it does not represent their company very well, which I would imagine that's how they would feel, they can fire that person for that. So Elon Musk is talking, your freedom of speech is not being attacked. The government can't interfere, but a private business can. And that is why so many advertisers have been leaving the X platform, because they don't like the hatred and the bigotry that is on the rise on X. And by the way, X is not alone. On other social media platforms as well. So Don Lemon does bring this up, and they're doing a terrible job on X, by the way, in my personal opinion, in going after people who spread bigotry and hatred. This was the part of the interview where he wants to hold Elon Musk accountable, and Musk should be held accountable, but he doesn't like to be held accountable, and he doesn't like to be challenged in interviews, and this is when he starts to get a little flustered, and this is where the interview goes south really fast.
Whereas the other platforms will censor on behalf of advertisers, the X platform will not.
Okay. So, but you think you don't think it's okay for them not to advertise with or have their content or their advertisement next to something that is anti-Semitic or
that is a different question. You can absolutely choose where next to which content do you want your advertising to appear. Absolutely, of course, and we have I think very good ad placement controls in this regard.
Yeah. So you said if they kill the company, it's them, but doesn't the buck stop with you? I mean, you're
Don, I have to say, choose your question carefully. There's 5 minutes left.
okay, but so
Is this the question you want to ask?
the same question is you said that they are killing the company, but you're the head of the company. The buck doesn't stop with you?
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment. And I'm going to stick to that. And if that means making less money, so be it.
The First Amendment does not pertain to private entities and private businesses. How is it possible that a billionaire, somebody with more money than God, one of the richest people in the world, doesn't seem to understand that? This has nothing to do with freedom of speech. You see, if X allows people to spread bigotry and hatred, and it incites violence, X can be found liable for that. It is a private business. Freedom of speech in the First Amendment pertains to the government that can't interfere with someone when they say whatever they want to say. Now, listen, you can't threaten people, right? There's certain things that you can't say that's protected. But freedom of speech, again, pertains to the government. It doesn't pertain to private business. And you could hear Elon Musk getting flustered because he's the kind of guy that doesn't want to be held accountable. Don Lemon asked him a very fair question. Doesn't the buck stop with you? You want to blame everybody else and say that if they kill X, so be it. But aren't you the CEO? Aren't you the guy that runs the company? And notice how he doesn't want to be held responsible. And then he says, well, choose your questions carefully, meaning ask me something else. You don't have much time left, and I don't want to answer these questions. That's what Elon Musk is saying, in a way to Don Lemon. And Don Lemon knows that, but to his credit, he still continues to press him on the issue. And this is, again, where Elon Musk doesn't want to be held accountable, and he seems to get more and more angry by the minute. The last 10 minutes of this interview is awesome because it shows you that Elon Musk is not prepared, and he cannot and will not defend his ridiculous opinions on so many different issues. This is where Elon even gets more upset.
So I have to listen, I'm just being honest, right? I'm not trying to, get you or anything. I was just surprised that you would blame other people for killing the company. I mean, when you say the buck stops with the President of the United States, regardless of what happens, right? So, why would that question upset you? You seem upset by it, are you?
I think you.
And I'm not trying to upset you.
Well, you are upsetting me because the way you're phrasing questions, I think, is not cogent.
It's not what?
Not cogent.
Cogent.
Yes.
Yeah, the way you're phrasing the questions is not cogent. What does that mean? According to Elon Musk, yeah, you're challenging me and you're asking me to defend things that are indefensible. So he uses the term, it's not cogent. No. Elon Musk is just getting flustered because he's not used to being challenged. He's forced now to be sitting next to someone face to face to answer questions. He doesn't want to answer these kinds of questions. So he is flustered. You are running X. You're one of the most recognizable people in the world. You're one of the richest people in the world. Yet when you're sitting next to somebody who happens to be black and gay, you don't want to answer their questions. But yet you have no problem going on X, your platform, and making bigoted statements and spreading conspiracy theories, which, by the way, Elon Musk is known to do. A door falls off of a plane, and he wants to blame it on minorities that are being hired at an airline and claiming that the standards have been lowered when that had absolutely nothing to do with the door falling off. Boeing already has said that it was their fault. It was a malfunction. And by the way, the female pilot landed that plane safely and saved hundreds of lives on that plane. But yet he wants to say that, the standards are being lowered so that minorities could be hired. That is 100% not true. He lies. And those tweets are still up there on X. They haven't taken those down. He doesn't take down bigoted, hateful tweets. And in this interview, his excuse for not taking down some of these horrific tweets, horrific things being said about Jewish people or black people, his defense, well, not a lot of people saw that tweet. We try to take down tweets, that are more popular. That's his defense. I personally believe that if you run a social media platform, that you have an obligation to take down bigoted, hateful things in nature. I believe you have an obligation to do that. With all the users on X, I agree with Republicans and Democrats on this. You have an obligation. And Elon Musk doesn't seem to care. That's the problem with Elon Musk. He's a trust fund baby that doesn't seem to care. I think that's the best way to describe him. Do I know what's in Elon Musk's heart? I don't. I can only go by the things he says. And by his conspiracy theories and the people he goes after, I can only come to this conclusion. I believe that Elon Musk is bigoted in nature. He goes after transgenders. He goes after minorities. I believe he is bigoted in nature. Now, I think it's nice to hear somebody say, well, we want to treat people based on merit and who they are as human beings. Yeah, that sounds great, but that's not what you're doing on X. That's not what the platform is doing. That's not what you are doing. You go after minorities. You go after transgenders. You want to talk about freedom of speech, yet when somebody wants to do something to their own body, you seem to have a problem with that. So he contradicts himself, and he gets angrier and angrier as the interview is about to end. And this is towards the end of the interview where he's still upset with Don Lemon for challenging him, and I don't think there's one question that Don Lemon asked him that was out of bounds or inappropriate. I thought Don Lemon was being very respectful to him, maybe even too respectful. This was towards the end of the interview, and you can clearly see that Elon Musk is still upset.
Okay. Listen, I'm not meaning to offend you. You're an intense person. Where does that intensity come from?
I was born that way. And I had a tough childhood.
You did?
So, yeah.
How so?
Right, Walter Isaacson goes into it in the book, and we only have a couple minutes left, so
All right.
too long to describe. So there are one or two questions I can do, and then we'll have to call it.
Right. Okay. Again, I don't mean to upset you. Why are you just...
No, I have a whole room full of people waiting to meet with me,
Okay.
so we're just going over time.
Okay. All right. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, I'm sure it was a whole room full of black people, right? Yeah, I'm sure. That was pretty much the end of the interview. And again, I want to say this one more time. I'm not a huge Don Lemon fan. I don't think he's great at what he does. I thought he did a great job in this interview. Sure. I recommend anybody watch it, and you could see Elon Musk get flustered. The last 10, 15 minutes of the interview, it just goes downhill because he doesn't like being challenged. And that's the case with some people who are bigoted in nature. Yes, I do believe Elon Musk is a bigoted person. They don't like to be challenged on their bigotry. I've had people in studio that I've challenged that are bigoted in nature. People that believe drag queen reading to kids is more of a threat to our children than anything else in society. I challenge them on that. They get flustered and then they leave because they don't like to be challenged. I've had people in studio that have defended the Confederate flag but want to ban the gay pride flag. I've challenged them on that, and I asked them, can you name me a situation where a drag queen reading where a child died? Of course they can't. And then I, mention, school shootings and all of our children that have been gunned down, but they don't want to talk about that, just like Elon Musk doesn't want to talk about racism. Here's what I try to do as a white man. And this is what I would say to Don Lemon, and we're going to try to get him on the show. I reached out to his people. Here's what I always say when it comes to race. At least this is what I try to say. I'm white, as you can see clearly. I don't know what it's like to be a black person living in this country. I don't know what it's like to be an Asian person, right? So what I try to do is I try to listen. I'll try to listen to a friend of mine, who happens to be black. I'll try to listen to somebody who's black, who's a friend of mine, or from another culture. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be black, and he's on TV every night. And we talk about race a lot, and I listen to him, and I try to understand, because I think that's the best thing somebody can do that happens to be white. Listen to somebody from another culture, from another background who looks different than you, and understand. Doesn't mean you always have to agree with them, but I try to at least listen and understand. And a friend of mine who's a very successful guy, who Elon Musk would say can't be the victim of racism, right? Because he's successful, which is ridiculous, by the way. And he told me he's been pulled over by the cops so many times every year for not doing anything wrong. He drives a nice car. He's a registered car, never been arrested before. And he tells me, about all these situations. Well, I was in the car with him once. This was about 7 or 8 years ago. He was driving, I was the passenger, and he was pulled over. And he asked, officer, what did I do wrong? They don't tell him. And they ask him for his driver's license and registration. And he says, you need to tell me what I did wrong. And I don't like to butt in, but then I did. Because there's an officer on there that says, officer, you can't ask for his ID unless you tell us what he did wrong. Officers go back to their car. Then they come back and they said, we thought we saw a tail light out. I said, you thought you saw a tail light out, or there is a tail light out? We thought we did. Then they ask him to get out of the car. They tell me to stay in the car. They ask him to get out of the car. He does get out of the car. I told him not to. He does get out of the car. And they start questioning him, and they get his ID and everything else, and it was disgusting because they let him back in the car. They don't even give a real reason why they pulled him over. So I watched it firsthand. I've never been pulled over for no reason. Okay, I've been pulled over at times for speeding or maybe not putting my signal on or minor infractions, but at least there was a reason. They pulled him over for no reason, and these were 2 white officers, and the only reason that I come up with is because he was black. There is a successful man who's on TV every night, who is very good at what he does, driving a nice car, and he was the victim, and I saw it myself, of racism, being treated differently by law enforcement. I think most law enforcement are great people. They're heroes. I'm pro-police, but I'm also pro-Black Lives Matter movement. I think you can do both. When I see a police officer, I shake their hand. I say, thank you for what you do. I love our sheriff here, Kevin McMahon. I think he's a great guy. Most Metro police officers, and I'll go as far as to say most officers across the country, I believe, are heroes and they're good people. I am pro-police. That doesn't mean racism doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean there are not racist cops out there, and it doesn't mean that just because you're a black man or woman in America that's successful that you can't be the victim of racism. But not only does Elon Musk not want to admit that, he doesn't want to talk about it. He wants everybody to move on. He said it in the interview. We need to move on. So how do we move on? Let's just not talk about gender issues. Let's not talk about racism. By the way, which party talks about gender issues more, the left or the right? The right is obsessed with transgenders. The right is obsessed with the LGBT community. The right are the ones that don't want gay people to get married. They want to interfere with their lifestyle. They think drag queens are the worst thing in the world. So I would tell Elon Musk, your people on the far right, conspiracy theorists like you, are the ones that keep bringing up transgender issues, and you're consumed with what bathroom people go in. You're the ones that are bringing it up, and people on the left are the ones that have to defend them. But Elon Musk doesn't want to talk about that. He wants to just, let's just judge people by their merit. Okay, does that mean racism doesn't exist? Does that mean everybody's doing that? How ignorant do you have to be? And by the way, there's two different types of people. There's book smart people, and then there's, street smart people. You can make your own conclusion on where Elon Musk lands, but I'll tell you this, he is complicit. And he does not talk to a lot of minorities. He does not talk to a lot of black people. That is evident in this interview. Why do I say that? Because he makes a gross assumption in the interview and makes an assumption that, Don Lemon, look at you. Look at how successful you are. You've done great. This country's been great for you. So that must mean because he has a good job and he's making a lot of money, he can't be a victim. Can't be a victim of racism. Can't be a victim of bigotry. It is ridiculous. He is living in a cloud of money, and he doesn't talk to a lot of minorities who happen to be victims. Do you see where I'm going with that? He needs to speak to more black people. And I would recommend that to anybody who thinks Elon Musk is right in this conversation. Am I saying that everybody in this country is racist? Of course I'm not. Most people in this country are good people, just like I talk about cops. Most cops in this country are heroes. They're good people. I'd like to think most people in this country treat everybody with respect and treat everybody as equals, regardless of what their sexuality is or what they look like. And I'm pretty confident that Don Lemon would agree with me on that. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and there are not bad people out there. There are a lot of bad people on social media that spread hatred, bigotry, and horrible things. And Elon Musk and X and many other social media platforms do not do a good enough job of getting rid of that sort of bigotry. And again, Elon Musk's defense was, well, we focus more on the tweets where more people see it. What does it matter if one person sees it or 1 million people see it? It's still wrong. It's still wrong. There were a lot of things in this interview that I thought were extremely problematic. Again, this is a guy that is never challenged. Elon Musk, people will say things about him in the media. People will say things about him on social media, but he's not challenged face to face. This was one of the first times I saw somebody finally challenge Elon Musk to his face, and he faltered. And if you don't believe me or you think I'm making it up, you don't even have to watch the entire interview. Watch the last 15 minutes. He faltered. He didn't know how to defend his bigoted statements. He didn't know what to say, so he got angry and he pouted. And then he likes to call people on the left woke. By the way, I don't see anything wrong with being awake. I don't see anything wrong with being understandable of our surroundings. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. But this is who Elon Musk is, and he was exposed by Don Lemon, and I give Don Lemon all the credit in the world because I thought he really did a good job in an appropriate way and in a respectful way in challenging Elon Musk. We'll take some phone calls on the other side, and by the way, I haven't even gotten into Peter Navarro. We'll get to that when we come back as well. Navarro right now is in a jumpsuit, maybe playing checkers. I don't know exactly what he's doing right now. He could have they might have allowed him to bring an orange turd poster in his cell, maybe pleasuring himself to a Donald Trump poster. I don't know, but either way, he is behind bars right now. What did he have to say right before He went into the slammer. Well, we have that audio for you, and we'll take some phone calls on the other side. The number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. You know, if you support this show, I'd love for you to support my sponsors because I got some great people. Leo from Pioneer Air was in studio last week. Came into this country from Mexico with his family. The church has brought him over, and boy, he's done great for himself and his family. And he has a wonderful business called Pioneer Air. And if you're a listener of this show and you call them, you're going to get a VIP membership, free scheduled maintenances, at least 2 a year, a dedicated hotline and more, repair discounts, extended warranties. And, you know, with summer right around the corner, you want to make sure that your air conditioning systems are working. So I'm going to give out this number right now to all my lovely listeners out there. Give Leo a call and tell him that I sent you, and you're going to get some very special discounts and a free 1-year VIP membership. Give him a call. Tell him I sent you. 702-703-6346. And again, that number, 702-703-6346 to call Pioneer Air. I gave out my number, not my personal number, but the name of, or I should say the number of the studio here, 702-221-7283. We will take your phone calls on the other side, and we will hear from Peter Navarro coming up next. Take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council, with a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen. I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. You know, no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, do we have some interesting guests lined up for the next few weeks. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be joining us in the next few weeks here. Just trying to nail down a date. He's going to be announcing his vice presidential candidate. We'll have him on after that. Turning Point USA, I'm sure you've heard of that organization. Well, they're sponsoring an event at Kent State University, and guess who their guest speaker is? Kyle Rittenhouse. One of the people that is putting this event on has agreed to join us on the show tomorrow. That's going to be an interesting conversation. So some big guests lined up throughout the week. We got Nicole Mitchell, who's going to be co-hosting with me on Friday. If you don't know who she is a former pastor, came from a very right-wing evangelical family. She got out of that lifestyle, and now she's turned into, I think it's fair to call her liberal. And she's going to talk a little bit about her life and that lifestyle on Friday. So a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. What have we been talking about if you're just joining us right now? The Elon Musk, Don Lemon interview where Elon Musk self-destructed there the final 10 minutes. And if you're not biased and you could just watch the interview for what it is, because listen, I'm not a Don Lemon fan, but if you just watch the interview for what it is, you'll see that Don Lemon doesn't talk to a lot of minorities. He doesn't know what people have had to go through and continue to go through in 2024, maybe based on their sexuality or the color of their skin. Elon Musk is complicit at a minimum. I don't know what's in his heart, but certainly he sounds racist when he tells everybody that could be a victim or could be the victim of racism we just need to move on. Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the future. No, we have to talk about the past so we can go to the future. Elon Musk doesn't seem to understand that. We want to get your calls on this and your thoughts. 702-221-7283. Phone lines are jam-packed right now, but keep trying. We'll get to you. Let's go to Al first. Al, what's going on?
Yeah, Brian, thanks for taking my call. I was listening to your interview, and I wasn't sure where you were going with that. And, it's sad that Elon Musk I'm glad for you exposed his attitudes, and I'm going to listen to the interview. And I appreciate that you brought that up to the forefront. Mm-hmm. I really don't follow a lot about Elon Musk, even though I do own stock in EV cars.
Sure.
But I do want to say this. Is that, racism does exist. It's unfortunate. We shouldn't focus too much on it, but we should call it out. And I wanted to tell you, I'm Latino, and, I happen to be Republican, conservative, all that stuff. I have a lot of Caucasian friends. I have friends of everything. But one of my Caucasian friends came up to me, and he goes, hey, you're working at this 7-Eleven now. Huh? He goes, yeah. He goes, I went and tried to get a job at Kragen, and they wouldn't hire me because I didn't speak Spanish, so I sued them and I got $18,000.
Well, listen, I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that there are certain jobs that certainly a big requirement would be maybe speaking another language, depending on the clientele that you talk to. And listen, I think that's up to the employer to do that, right? So I can't speak to your friend's situation. I can tell you that if you're in a Spanish market, you probably want to hire people that speak Spanish. And I don't think if I walked in there and said, hey, I want a job, and they asked me, do you speak Spanish? And I say no, and they don't hire me, that I could sue them for it. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, he sued him, but Kragen is supposed to adhere to everybody, not just to Spanish.
I understand.
It's not a Spanish. It's not like he's ambassador to Mexico.
Well, then obviously that's wrong, and that's probably why they paid him out. Hey, Al, it's good to hear from you. Good to hear from you, my friend. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you. 702-221-7283. One phone line open. 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Julian. Julian's next up on Pushing Limits. Hello, Julian.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
Good, man. What's on your mind?
So from the interview, a couple phrases that really I think come to mind are one is those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, right? So with Elon Musk wanting to just pretend like racism doesn't still exist or never existed or not talk about it, like that is a recipe for repeating horrific actions.
That is a great point that you make. I absolutely agree with you. If you're not willing to admit atrocities that have happened in the past, where it does seem like so many Republicans want to bring up critical race theory, which, by the way, I don't think is happening in our schools, but they're so concerned about that, but yet they're not concerned about the things that are happening today. Right? I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, and I'm so disappointed in Elon Musk because he's such a powerful guy with so much money. But I can tell you right now, based on that interview, Elon doesn't talk to a lot of people that are victims of racism. He just doesn't.
Absolutely, which leads into the second phrase I want to say, which is, or a word that he needs to learn, which is in spite of, right? Which is, like Don Lemon is incredibly successful in spite of the disadvantages our society gave him.
Right.
And there can be many, right? It can be, like the color of your skin. It can be, did you grow up rich? Did you grow up poor? Because there are plenty of people who grew up poor who became wildly successful in spite of maybe not having the best education and whatnot. It's not because of it,
Barack Obama became the president of the United States in spite of. Michelle Obama was able to get a law degree and made something of herself in spite of. And these people, they talk about that, right? They talk about, racism and things that they've experienced in their life. It doesn't mean that everybody in this country is racist, because they're not. But the in spite of statement is important, and Elon Musk doesn't seem to understand that. In this interview, it seemed like Elon was telling Don, well, wait a second, you're a black gay man, but you're successful. How could have America been bad to you? You're successful. And Don Lemon is correct, and I don't always agree with Don Lemon, but he's right. I know what I know, and yes, I am successful, and I've had great opportunity, but I've also been the victim of racism, and it doesn't seem like Elon can grasp that.
No, these two things are not mutually exclusive, and as you said, Elon Musk lives in a safe space where he is able to push out anybody who might make him feel uncomfortable.
Yep. And that's what he did to Don Lemon.
To be coddled like a baby.
You are absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, my friend, you made a couple great points, and I really do appreciate your call. Great call. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate you. He's absolutely right. That was a great call. So why did Elon Musk fire Don Lemon? I'll tell you why. It's pretty evident. He made that decision, and he told one of his handlers right after that interview. Why? Because Don Lemon challenged him, and he didn't feel like Don was good for the platform because Don Lemon is challenging decisions that he makes with X. That's exactly why he fired Don Lemon. Don Lemon probably would have done a decent job on X. He probably would have gotten a lot of numbers and would listen, if he conducts interviews like he did that one, Don Lemon probably would have done a good job. I'm not saying I would listen to it every day, but that's why Elon Musk fired Don Lemon. He doesn't want anybody to challenge him, especially a gay black man to challenge him for everybody to see. He made Elon look really bad, and if there's anybody out there that says, oh, Elon destroyed Don Lemon, well, if you're a Klansman, then I can understand why you would have that opinion. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. You know what? Why don't we go to Damien's next. Damien, what's going on?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm on headphones. I hope I sound okay.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Go right ahead.
So, yeah, I used to work for Elon at a company. I won't say which one just because, for privacy. But, yeah, it's so evident everything about that interview was very real. And I understand he does never want to be challenged, never wants to be challenged. And he openly always says he wants to be challenged. So it's kind of an irony. But one of the big points of that interview that I think stuck out was, when people in that realm are so hypocritical about taking subsidies and other things from into their business, from what the EV market does and the PV market, all the things that he sells relies on government subsidies, to be able to tell you that the other guys are the lazy ones.
Right.
It's unbelievable in the terms of, when you try to talk to conservatives about how they look at the world.
I agree. If you don't mind me asking, I know you don't want to say what company, and that's totally fine. How many years did you work for Elon Musk?
I worked for the company that he owned for 8 years.
Did you have Did you hear any problems with, whether it be minorities or inclusion? Did you think it was a lack of diversity? Did you have any concerns when you worked for him?
No, not in that nature, because he took over the company for a year. I worked for the company when he was the majority owner, and then he took over the company. You could probably guess which one I'm talking about, but he took over the company, and in a year he had destroyed that company.
You know what's amazing?
It no longer exists.
What's more problematic to me than anything, right? And I think you'll agree with me on this is, even if you disagree with somebody that looks different than you, or maybe their sexuality is different than you, why aren't you willing to give them the benefit of the doubt? You know, his answer is, oh, well, we just need to move on. We got to stop talking about this and let's just move forward. And it's like, and Don Lemon was right. It's so disrespectful to say that to somebody who looks different than you, who's lived a life different than yours, and probably has experienced racism or things different than what an Elon Musk has experienced, to just say, push it all aside. We don't need to talk about that. Let's stop talking about race. Let's stop talking about gender. You know what? If black people didn't talk about race, Dr. Martin Luther King maybe never makes his speeches, and maybe black people, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe black people are still drinking from different water fountains. Maybe black people are still in the back of buses. Just maybe that is still going on in 2024. And when you make a statement like Elon Musk made, it sounds like you're a bigot and you're a racist, and or you're not willing to listen to people that have had different life experiences than you have had. Elon Musk is a white man. Yes, I get it. He comes from another country. But he has been treated differently as a whole, what Don Lemon said, which I agree with, than somebody that looks like Don Lemon in this country. It doesn't mean that everybody's racist, but the fact that he is so complicit, and that's the word that I've used here, that he just wants to push all that aside, it just sounds to me like he's the type of person that just doesn't want to listen to anybody that looks differently than him. That's my biggest issue.
Well, that's the truth. And the thing is that he comes from South Africa, and he was raised with a very wealthy background. And I don't want to care about that, because it's not about your wealthy background. I know a lot of wealthy backgrounds who don't think like he does, but he is the epitome of what he is, against, because he came as an immigrant to our country,
right,
and gained his businesses on the backs of other Americans who pay for subsidies. I mean, so I don't say that's even wrong.
I agree.
I work for the company that. It's just that if you do that, why don't you have a little more respect?
I agree. And you know what it reminded me of? You could tell me whether you agree or not. When you speak to someone who is on the right, and you speak to them about race and how there is racism in this country, and sometimes their response is, but we gave you a black president. Right? It's so complicit and so disrespectful. Somehow, because we've had one black president, or in this case, a black vice president, that there can't be racist people or bigots or hatred in this country is so absurd. And that's exactly what Elon Musk is saying when he looks at Don Lemon and he says, but look at you. Look at how successful you have been. We let you be successful in this country. It's very similar to somebody saying, well, we gave you Barack Obama. He's black. So you know what? And by the way, they didn't. Most of the people that make that statement didn't vote for Barack Obama. I appreciate your phone call, and I appreciate your perspective, sir. Thank you so much.
I'll make one. Can I make one
Sure.
more point?
Sure.
Real quick.
Sure.
I think a lot of this boils down with Elon, and I'm not going to degrade him in any way, because everybody lives their lives, but he has a trans son.
Right.
And I think this has all come about. He had a dramatic change in all this. When I never heard any of this, years ago.
Yeah.
This has all come about in recent years, which has changed in attitudes like this. And so, listen, I'm not saying anything. I think he's affected on a personal level that he just can't handle personally.
Agree.
And he's lashing out at the rest of the world because of it.
And
but anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Where are you calling, by the way? Where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Maryland.
All right. Well, thank you for listening out there in Maryland, and we appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until it happens to you, right? Dick Cheney, if you remember, and Liz Cheney, who I do have some respect for. If you recall, they were very anti-gay. They were very anti-LGBT community. They don't want gay people to get married, so on and so forth, until they found out an immediate member of their family happened to be gay. And then all of a sudden they changed their thoughts on homosexuality until it happens to you. And that's what I say about so many of these people on the far right and the Elon Musk and the conspiracy theorists. You're not going to change your opinion until maybe it happens to you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Damon. I believe Damon is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Damon.
Hey, what's going on, Brian?
How you doing?
I'm all right. This thing is crazy because it makes me want to get my Tesla back. It's the the thing is, he's saying two things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
First, he's saying I opened up free speech so people can talk about racism or how they feel and how racist they are. But then he says there is no racism, and why should we talk about it? Let's let it go away. So if we're trying to let it go away and stop talking about it, why did you open up the floodgates to let them talk about it?
You're right. I agree. And isn't it interesting that those people that say, let's not talk about transgender issues, are the same people that are obsessed what bathrooms people are going in, and they want to talk about drag queen reading like the sky is falling, yet they say, oh, yeah, let's not talk about these issues. They're the ones that are talking about, homosexuality and LGBT issues, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is the one that's showing pictures of Hunter Biden's penis, and they're telling other people that defend these kinds of people to not bring it up when they're the ones that are bringing it up.
Exactly. But that's projection there, Brian, because a lot of them I think are gay. I mean, how many Republicans have you looked at that you think a hot woman at 2 o'clock in the morning is like, I'm going to take that Republican home?
Well, I know.
Very few.
I certainly know where you're going with that. But at the same time, it's like whatever Elon Musk is and wherever he's from, he's a very powerful person because he has a lot of money and he can accomplish a lot of things, and he has. And for him to tell minorities, and that's really what he's doing, whether you're in the LGBT community or you're black, he's basically telling all of you, you know what? Let's stop talking about race and let's just move forward. And I find, and Don Lemon was 100% correct, I find it so disrespectful to make a statement like that. And I don't even think he understands. He doesn't even think he's being disrespectful by saying that, but he is. You're poo-pooing on all the people out there that have been victims. You're poo-pooing on all the people out there that have been treated differently because of the color of their skin. And it's so reprehensible to me.
It is. And the thing, like, what was even worse than what he said to Don Lemon was what he said about the historically black colleges. That was ridiculous, because if you look at the success rate of people that graduated from historically black colleges, it's unparalleled from where they came. It really is.
You're right. I give Don Lemon a lot of credit. As I've said a couple times on this show, I'm not a huge Don Lemon fan. I think this was the best interview he's ever done. He held Elon Musk's feet to the fire in a respectful way, and Elon Musk couldn't handle it. He got agitated. He was visibly angry. He couldn't answer his questions, or if he did, he gave him a 3-word answer. He cuts the interview, and then he fires Don Lemon. If Don Lemon was a straight white man, do you think that interview would have gone the same way? Do you think Elon Musk would have fired him immediately? I say no.
But Don Lemon was smart.
Yeah.
He was very smart. He owns the rights to that interview.
He does.
So he's making money off everybody looking at that interview and not Elon Musk. Yeah, he was very smart to own
Don Lemon's a smart guy. I would never say otherwise. I think at times he says some stupid things, but he's a smart guy as a whole. He's an educated man. And I do respect him for holding his feet to the fire and challenging him in a respectful way. Damon, it is good to hear from you, and I do appreciate your call, sir. Thank you very much.
Take it easy.
You too. 702-221-7283. Why don't we go to Joseph? Joseph is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Joseph.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. All right. First of all, hearing about Elon Musk makes me. I'm starting to think that this is the same type of speech that Trump is saying, including those MAGA Republicans, about the color of their skin, the LGBTQs. That makes me more upset about that than anybody.
Yeah, it got me upset, and I got to be honest with you, the last 10 minutes of the interview, I was quite entertained, because you saw Elon Musk, because he never really gets challenged. And he'll say, oh, people say things about me all the time. Yeah, but not to your face. Not that where you have to answer to it and you have to sit down and look across from somebody who's a minority who happens to be gay. Elon Musk has never been challenged like that before in his life. He doesn't want to be challenged like that again, and he probably never will be, because he's not willing to be challenged because he can't defend his bigotry.
My point exactly. That's what Elon Musk. Maybe that's why Trump is supporting Elon Musk a lot more, because he's more racist than Trump was, and that's what I hate about him. And
yeah, well, unfortunately, there are a lot of Elon Musks out there in the world. Some that are powerful, some that are not. But if you talk to them about race and racial issues, and a lot of these people come from the right, by the way, it's just a fact. When you ask them to talk about race and the issues facing the country, they either don't want to talk about it. They'll give you an Elon Musk answer, which is, let's just move forward. Let's just move backwards. They want to ban books. They don't want to talk about the history of this country. They don't want to talk about slavery. They just want to move on. Those people are complicit. and they think that it's just going to disappear. You know, I'm sure Martin Luther King, Dr. King, was, I'm sure, people said much worse to him than that, but a lot of people wanted him to go away too, and sadly, one deranged individual murdered him. But this idea of let's not talk about the past, or at least let's not listen to people that have been victims, is so disgusting. And Elon Musk exposed himself for who he is. And the fact that he fired Don Lemon virtually right after that interview says all you need to know about this guy. He's a coward.
That's the same thing. That's what I say about him, about Elon Musk, including that Republican Mark Robinson. He is a coward too. He thinks that all African Americans should be not voting. But me personally, I'd rather say let them vote.
Yeah. Listen. You know, there are differences of opinions when it comes to who should or shouldn't be allowed to vote. But I'll say this: that interview is not going away. It's on the internet for everybody to see. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if you're one of those people that thinks that Elon Musk was right with all of his answers and that he destroyed Don Lemon, then I think it says a lot about who you are as an individual. And Joseph, I do appreciate your phone call. I'm glad you're not one of those people. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, you got it.
All right, take it easy. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jeremy. Jeremy is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Jeremy?
Jeremy here?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm just calling to, I noticed y'all were on the Elon Musk and Don Lemon debate topics a little bit. And I don't know, I just always find that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember Elon ever making it about race, rather quite the opposite, where it seemed to be the interviewer was more so like on the side of, oh, we need to do DEI and all that.
So here's my response to that. Elon Musk doesn't want to get into a conversation about race with a black gay man on national television, but when Elon gets behind his keyboard, he has no problem attacking. Example, Don Lemon brought up, I'm going to give you an example. Don Lemon brought up a tweet where Elon Musk was talking about an airline, a Boeing aircraft, where the door fell off mid-flight. And by the way, it had nothing to do with the employees on the flight. And there was a woman that was a pilot. Elon Musk goes on Twitter and say, well, there you go. The standards, you're letting people, become pilots and letting people, get a job for an organization because of cultural factors and not merit. Now, number one, that's not true. Number two, less than 10%.
Yeah, I don't agree with him on that.
Well, okay, I hear you. And I don't either, and we agree. But the point I'm trying to make is when he's behind his keyboard posting something on X, he has no problem posting bigoted statements like that, and he was 100% wrong. Don Lemon brought up his actual tweets, and now all of a sudden he doesn't want to talk about it. That's a coward to me. Now, I agree with you. Elon didn't bring up race, not in the interview, because he doesn't want to talk about race to somebody who's black face to face.
See, I don't think Don Lemon being black is what kept Elon away from it. If anything, it's the fact that we're calling the only true African American there. We're trying to brand him as a racist just because we don't agree with him.
It's not about branding somebody. It's about challenging somebody with comments that they make that are not true.
May I challenge you, please?
Okay, sir, let me ask you a question, though. If I said that the earth was
flat.
May
I challenge you, please?
Yes, you can challenge me. Go ahead. You can ask me anything you want. But if I say the earth is flat, what would you say to that? Oh, well, I'm entitled to my opinion. No, you would challenge me on it. Go ahead. You could ask me anything you want.
Dude, if you think the earth's flat, that's all you, dog.
Okay, well, I don't, dog. I was just using that as an example. But go ahead. Challenge me.
Okay.
Ask me anything you want.
Well, I mean, honestly, I kind of forgot what it was said because you were talking over me.
Okay, well, you made the statement that, first of all, Elon didn't bring up race. I gave you an example of Elon going on Twitter behind a keyboard when he doesn't have to be face-to-face with somebody.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now.
Okay.
So what was that? What is just any example that can back up the claim that Elon is being a racist or Elon is alt-right now just because he made one tweet that it was derogatory.
It wasn't. Did you watch the entire interview?
I'll be honest, no.
Okay.
I don't have time.
So that's I would say that that's the first thing that I would respectfully ask you to do is watch the entire interview before you criticize me for talking about it. And then I would say that the second thing I would ask you to do is after you watch the interview, maybe call me back and then give me your thoughts on it. Is that fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
good.
Can
I get a little bit your influence before I watch it so
Sure.
that maybe I can see more through your eyes?
Sure.
So what is it that is about Elon Musk's personality that validates calling him a racist?
Okay, so as I've said 30 times on this show, I don't know what's in his heart. He made some bigoted statements that are racist in nature. Example, when you're looking at a black gay man and he wants to talk about his experience and how he has been the victim of racism and bigotry, and you look at him and you say, I don't want to talk about the past. You're a successful, black guy. I just want to talk about the future. That is complicit and bigoted in nature because you're trying to erase the past history of someone that has been a victim. That statement alone in the interview to me is bigoted in nature. I don't know what's in Elon Musk's heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I respectfully disagree.
Okay, so you think, that's fine. So you think that when anybody who's a minority, anybody who maybe has a different sexual orientation than you, talks about their past and being the victim in certain situations, you think it's appropriate to say, I don't want to hear about the past. Let's just move on and talk about the future. You think that's totally appropriate?
I mean, on an individual basis, I'll hear him out. Like, I want you to, have trust in me.
Okay, but that's not, I appreciate you saying that. That's not what Elon Musk was doing with Don Lemon. He didn't want to hear about Don Lemon's past. He looked at him and he said, well, wait, you're a successful guy. Let's just talk about the future. The more we talk about the past, we're not going to get over it. Let's just talk about the future. I just find that to be very disrespectful at a minimum. And I think, I'm sure many people.
What was the interview about as far as when they were planning it? Were they, they have certain
I can't
to discuss?
That's
I can't uncharacteristic of Don Lemon to go completely off script and just
he wasn't off script.
So more
what do you mean off script? I mean, Elon Musk is a very controversial figure. He has said a lot of very controversial, untrue, and bigoted things in nature, conspiracy theories on social media. Don Lemon was absolutely on script, and he was challenging him on Elon Musk's own words that he used. Listen, I appreciate the phone call, and I got to tell you, I want you to watch the interview, and I want you to call me back, and I appreciate the call. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Paul.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, it's weird. I actually drove from Kansas City to Terre Haute, Indiana, and it kind of reminded me of what we're talking about to an extent. I saw these posters of that. Who was that lady that unfortunately was unalived by that undocumented immigrant? You know what I'm talking about?
Say that again. Come again.
It was that lady that got murdered by that undocumented immigrant.
Riley. Yeah.
Right. You would think that this was Jesus Christ. I mean, they had posters of her like they were the victims, and it makes me, it's just when George Floyd is strangled to death for 7 minutes by a white U.S. citizen police officer, not a word, not a peep.
And you know what else, Paul?
But the moment an undocumented person does it to a woman, the world's coming to an end, and it's no longer the guns. Now it's the person.
And isn't it interesting? And isn't it ironic that Riley's own father, who my heart goes out to, that family, it's a horrible situation. Riley's father did an interview the other day, and in that interview, he said that he felt like his daughter's life was being used to score political points. Guess what? He's not talking about the left. He's not talking about Democrats. Nope. They're not bringing her up to score political points. He is talking about Republicans. Riley's own father. So don't you think that would be a sign to Republicans to stop? I mean, it's just ridiculous when her own father has to say that.
It just goes to the point of a non-white, non-Christian America, and that's really what this all boils down to. All of Trump's comments about Jewish people and non-white people, and it's just who they are. These supporters have crawled out of their holes like cockroaches and started supporting racists and bigots. The last thing I'll say is I drove literally from all of Kansas City, Illinois, Indiana. I saw 4 Trump signs in 5 days. 4. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
and I was on dirt roads.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in rural, marry your sister, date your cousin America, like the middle of red America. So I'm just saying that I'm not saying that the news is perfect, but there's definitely a lot of bias because I was in the reddest part of the United States, and I saw four Trump things over 5 days from Tuesday to Sunday. So
yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It's not all what everybody makes it out to be.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. And I got to tell you, they call themselves the silent majority. No, they're not. They're the loud, obnoxious minority. And Trump is not going to win in November. I am very confident.
He's not.
Every day goes by that Trump will not be winning in November. And we'll see what happens from there on out. But I think that'll be the start of the end of MAGA world. At least I hope so. And tomorrow on the show, I will be talking about Lev Parnas. I don't know if you heard about his testimony in Washington, D.C. today, calling out Republicans like Ron Johnson and Sessions and others for spreading Russian propaganda and knowingly doing so, including Rudy Giuliani. And we're going to get to that story tomorrow. Yep, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But they don't care. I was at and I'll let you go to someone else. I was at a McDonald's having breakfast, and I heard these three guys that were MAGA supporters. It was pretty clear, it was the middle of the Red America, and they were twisting themselves into a pretzel, trying to figure out. He goes, "I thought Joe Biden couldn't talk, and I thought he was senile. How did he come out and give that State of the Union?" And he goes, "That was an incredible speech. How did he do that? What did they give him?" And it's like their little brains couldn't handle the fact that the narrative they saw on Fox News and OANN was he was this guy in a wheelchair that couldn't even walk or talk and was drooling on his dinner table. They were absolutely befuddled. Like, what in the hell? I goes, that's not what we thought he was. They didn't know what to do with themselves.
But then it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you're right. And then the right wingers out there. Oh, what cocktails was he on? What drugs was he on? They always try to come up with something.
Always.
It's absurd. And meanwhile, Cheeto Jesus, if you've just listened to him the last several days, especially what he said about people of the Jewish faith. By the way, 70% of Jewish people vote Democrat. So he's calling 7 out of 10 Jews. He's saying 7 out of 10 Jews in the United States hate Israel and they hate their own country. It is so ridiculous, and they hate their own religion. It's so absurd, and it's so bigoted in nature. Paul, it's just getting worse and worse, my friend. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
Later.
Take care. 702-221-7283. Why don't we take one more call, then we got to take a break. Let's go to Carl. Hi, Carl. What's going on?
Yeah, hey, man. Listen, you mentioned about being stopped in a car with your black friend of yours, and it reminds me of an old story that happened years ago when I lived in the Los Angeles area. A local TV station wanted to try an experiment. So they took a black, he's an African-American doctor. He had a very expensive vehicle, like a Mercedes, well-dressed, and put a tape recorder in the car with him and drove him through a very high-end area of Los Angeles area. And he was stopped. Every time he went through there, he was stopped and asked the same questions. What are you doing here? Where are you going? Where have you been? And so forth and so on. And only him was stopped every time he went through.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you something, I think.
But if you told Elon Musk that story, he would say, let's just move on. Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the future. What that means is I don't want to admit that racism exists. I don't want to hear victims of hate crimes or racism or bigotry. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to address it. I don't care. That's what Elon Musk is saying in that interview. I'm telling you, that's how some of these people think. Carl, I appreciate you, my friend. I got to take a break. I appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
You got it.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. What did Peter Navarro have to say before he hit the slammer? We'll tell you coming up next. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. I'm there quite a bit. Great gaming bar. Some of the best chicken Alfredo I've ever had, by the way. Great food, great atmosphere. They have their prime rib once a month over there. They've got some great gaming specials, the Pass the Puck contest during Vegas Golden Knights hockey games. Really, I'm being serious when I say some of the best food in town. Brian Slopak and the crew will take care of you. Show up there, sign up for a player's card, mention my name. You'll get special promotions and offers from the show. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Please check them out. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from Peter Navarro. What did he have to say before he headed to the slammer? That coming up next. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council, with a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen. I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special guest that's going to be joining us next segment. You want to talk about someone who's done quite a lot in life as an actress, a producer, a life coach, and an author. Really looking forward to have Claudia Bernstein joining us in studio next. But want to talk a little bit here briefly about Peter Navarro. If you don't know who Peter Navarro is, who worked in Donald Trump's administration, well, Peter Navarro is going to jail. He is in jail right now. And Peter Navarro held a press conference right before he hit the slammer and put on that orange jumpsuit. So before I comment on it, I want to play it for you because it's hilarious. Because Peter Navarro starts going on a tangent. He starts talking about Hillary Clinton's emails, FBI agents who supposedly instigated January 6th. He talks about Mark Esper, who was fired, by the way, 2 months before by Trump, not having National Guard there. He really has an absolute meltdown. And again, this is moments before he hits the slammer. Have a listen to Peter Navarro.
There were more FBI informants up on Capitol Hill that day, possibly instigating that crowd, than the FBI itself could keep track of. There were stories about that. Why did Nancy Pelosi not provide more Capitol Hill police? Why did Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense, have the National Guard so far away? And as for the destruction of evidence, sir, look, the things they are doing, Hillary Clinton, like cleansing her, I mean, there's so many things these Democrats have done that would actually justify prison. You juxtapose that with me. All I've done is my duty. All I have done is my duty to this country, the Constitution, my commander-in-chief.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't, Peter. You are a liar. Peter Navarro refused to tell investigators what he knew about the plot to overthrow the 2020 election. It's part of the reason why he's in jail right now, eating a grilled cheese sandwich off the radiator. That's a little Sopranos reference there. And now reports are that Paul Manafort, another convicted felon, might be helping the Trump campaign after spending time behind bars himself. Donald Trump is a cancer. If you brown nose him and you spend enough time around him, chances are you're probably going to go to jail and you're probably going to break the law and lie for Orange Man. It is despicable and disgusting, and Peter Navarro is a liar, and he will always be a despicable turd. But yet, that's what these far-right Republican nimrods do. When they have to face the music and they have to go to jail, they beg for a pardon, they continue to wear the Donald Trump knee pads, or in this case, talk about everything else but their own case. Peter Navarro was asked by a reporter about refusing to tell investigators what he knew about the plot to overthrow the election. And then instead of answering the question, because he's obviously guilty, he was found guilty, he brings up Hillary Clinton's emails. Hey, Peter, whatever Hillary Clinton did with her email, she did it before the investigation by the DOJ happened. That would be like me throwing away my cell phone or deleting my emails before an investigation. She didn't break the law. You did. You were asked to tell the DOJ what you knew, and you didn't answer questions. And the reason why you didn't, because it would have probably implicated you among your crony friends, including Cheeto Jesus. So Peter Navarro, enjoy yourself behind bars. Be careful picking up the soap, my friend. And I hope you rot in jail. And I know you're not going to be there for a very long time. I wish it was longer, my friend. But have fun behind bars. And I hope, you do what Donald Trump did. And maybe you could take some of that orange jumpsuit and maybe sell it to some of these MAGA morons who are buying Donald Trump sneakers. Maybe they'll buy your authentic jumpsuit and you can sign it for them. Convicted felon Peter Navarro. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Claudia is going to be joining us in studio. It's going to be a fun interview. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council, with a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen. I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, we're going to have one of the directors of Turning Point join us on the show tomorrow. They're paying Kyle Rittenhouse to speak at a college. That should be a very interesting conversation. Hour 2 tomorrow. 12-year NBA veteran and coach Paul McKeskey is going to be joining us in studio, so that'll be fun. And you could be joining us on the Occupy Democrats Network. I don't know how many people are watching right now. What do we got? A lot of people in there. 6,000 people watching live now, so I didn't put makeup on today. Sorry about that. But appreciate all of you watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, on our YouTube channel, on TikTok, on Twitch, on the FM AM dial, and we appreciate you joining us, one of the fastest and largest growing shows, certainly in the Valley. So we have a special guest in studio today. And I always love talking to all different sorts of people with different backgrounds. And the lovely lady we have with us in studio today, her husband was in studio last week. She is an actress, a producer, a life coach, an author. What has she not done? So I definitely want to, I need a life coach. If anybody knows me, I need some guidance. Claudia Bernstein joining us in studio. Claudia, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I know I'm not your typical guest, so I'm curious to
You're right.
see how it goes.
Sometimes I do have some lunatics in studio. Not your husband, not your husband. But I do appreciate you being here. And I was reading a little bit about your story and what the things you've done in your life and just helping people. And it's just mesmerizing. I want you to take me back to when you were 17 years old, if we can start there.
Sure.
You get this gig as an actress on this hit TV show that I believe was broadcasted in 37 countries.
38 countries, yeah.
Yeah, and like when I'm 17 years old, I can't even tie my shoe. How do you get that gig? How does that even come about?
I was actually walking to an acting class, and a producer saw me through a window and offered me a movie. And I went home and I told my mom, a producer offered me a movie. And my mom looked at me and she goes, that's never going to happen. She said, this is not for you. You're going to college. You're not going to be an actress. That's not even a career. That's what she said.
That's not very nice.
But it's a different culture. You have to understand that.
Where are you? Tell people where you're originally
from. I am from Peru in South America.
Gotcha.
You know, my family was very conservative, and they didn't think that being an actress was something for a girl. Let's put it that way. So, but I was very excited.
I can't
about
relate
it.
to that.
No, I know it's a different culture, you know. And we're talking. I mean, I'm 57 years old, so this was 50 years.
But
ago.
help me out. 50 years ago, there were not famous actresses in Peru.
They were. But I tell you something. One of my friends went to get a passport, and they asked her what was her profession.
Yeah.
She wrote actress, and they said, "No, not your hobby, your profession." And she was already very famous. It's just a cultural thing.
It's changed a lot though in Peru since then, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
much.
Well, that's good. So you get this gig at 17, which is pretty awesome.
So she told me not to do it.
And
then
did it anyway.
No, he
No?
called me back,
Oh.
and he offered me the soap opera. So what I did is I recorded the soap opera every day in the afternoon for 6 months without a contract. And when I turned 18, I signed my contract.
And you were finally getting paid. I bet your parents weren't opposed to that.
I was getting paid. They didn't know that my parents were not agreeing. So I would come and say, "Oh, I forgot the contract. Oh, tomorrow I'll bring it. Oh, this or that." Million excuses.
Doesn't that sucks? Like you're so excited, and you should be at the age of 17. You're on television and you're in this soap opera, and you can't even tell your parents about it. Like most kids, the first people they would tell would be their parents. Hey guys, I just got this job. I'm going to be on TV, and I'm sure you were really excited. But yet you can't do that because you can't tell your parents about it.
But I understood that the culture, and I understood that this was kind of like borderline for them, and you know.
So it's a hit show. Everyone's seeing you across the world.
Yeah.
And then you decide at the age of 21 that you kind of want to do some things behind the scenes, right? And then you become a TV producer. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, yes. I went to school. I learned how to produce, direct. I went for direction, production of TV and film. And then I started producing behind the camera. I started creating things. It was funny because I didn't look my age. So people used to come to my office and ask for me.
Oh, really?
Thinking
That's
that,
funny.
yeah. And I would say, well, that would be me. No, really. And I was like, yeah, that
What
would
did
be
you
me.
enjoy more, acting or being behind the scenes as a producer?
Oh, I think I love directing more.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoy acting a lot because it allows you to create these personas, you know.
So I'll ask you this question this way. Since you used to act and you're a producer, can you tell when someone's not telling the truth better than maybe the average person? Like when is someone acting and when is somebody being their true self? Are you the type of person that could say, they're not telling the truth?
I oftentimes come to my husband after, not about him, but after he introduced me to somebody,
Yes.
and I will say something about this person.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's after a month, sometimes it's after 5 years. But he'll come back and say, you were right.
So you have instincts. You have good instincts because you come
I
from
read
that.
the energy of people very well.
Yeah. Oh,
Let's
boy.
put it that
What's my
way.
energy?
We're in the air.
Oh. You know, I had a therapist live on the air once with me and my mom, and it was a very interesting segment. Yeah, I'm an open book. My life is an open book, but that's super cool. By the way, if you're just joining us, Claudia Bernstein joining us in studio, actress, producer, life coach, author. We'll get to all that stuff. So you're a producer for how many years? You started at the age of 21. How many years were you a
I
producer?
did it like for 3 or 4 years almost, and then decided to move to the States. My whole family moved, actually. My brother got cancer, so the
I'm so sorry to hear that.
environment in Peru wasn't good with a lot of smog and stuff like that. So my mom decided to move, and then I followed.
Do you still have family in Peru?
Yeah.
How often do you go back?
Usually once a year.
Oh, that's
you
cool.
know, I miss the food.
Yeah.
Most of it. My husband loves the food. My husband gets on a diet before we go to Peru.
I need to go on a diet.
Because he knows he's
Yeah.
going to gain like 4 or 5 pounds.
That's cool. So where do you move to?
Miami.
Oh, wow. Miami, Florida.
Florida,
That's the great weather out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Did you ever-
daughter is now there.
Oh,
So
wow,
I
that's
get
cool.
to visit her. So that's
Home of
great.
Vanilla Ice. No, there's much better things to do than to see Vanilla Ice out there. But the Miami Heat are a very good basketball team. And boy, the beaches out there, I miss it. I last time I was in Miami, I was 18 years old. I do
Yeah.
want to go back there. It's beautiful. So at what point do you move to Las Vegas? How old were you?
Well,
Or how many years ago? You don't have to say how old you were.
No, I'm 57. I don't have
Okay.
a problem with that. My ex-husband was an entertainer, so
Mm-hmm.
we got married and we moved to Vegas.
And my understanding is you produced and managed a show here. Can
Yeah,
you tell me a
I was his manager for
what
many
show?
years.
What show was this?
He passed away like 4 years ago. His name was Trent Carlini. He was the #1 Elvis stylist in the world.
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember that show. I'm so sorry.
He
to
was
hear
at the
that.
Hilton at the end. He was at the Hilton, but we started when we moved here. We were with Legends in Concert, and then
Great show.
Yeah, and then we did our own thing, and we started at the Boardwalk, and then went to the Sahara.
I didn't know that was your ex-husband. I've seen that show.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. He was very talented.
He was very, very talented.
So you probably know a lot about Elvis Presley and his history and all that stuff.
Right. Actually, the song "Viva Las Vegas," we kind of learned it together because he didn't sing that song when he was doing other shows in Chicago. Most of the time, he was in Chicago. And so when we moved here, he had to learn Viva Las Vegas, so I learned it with him. So now when the Golden Knights win, I know all the lyrics because that's what they sing.
Isn't that cool? Did your ex ever meet Elvis Presley?
No.
Never.
No, he never did.
The story is crazy, right? Because, Elvis was living on top of, at the time, I believe it was the Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on top of that in that Elvis suite. I guess that's what they call it. And the history over there at Westgate is pretty, now it's the Westgate, is very unique. Because Elvis really blew up Las Vegas in a good way, not a bad way. I mean, he had the residency here, the big residency, and he lived there. And he performed there, and
he has his jumpsuits in these big boxes, clear boxes. And Trent was the first one, and I think the only one that had a show running there. There has been other people after him that has like a one night, or they have contest. They actually have a contest for Elvis impersonators, and the one that wins gets an award, like the Dream King Award.
Is it frustrating
in his
for you?
memory?
Because let's be honest here, there are some really bad Elvis impersonators as well.
Sometimes they get in my nerves.
Like I was driving and I saw a street performer, and he must have been like Elvis in his later days because he was a large man, and that's okay. But I was listening to this guy sing, and I'm like, you're really not doing a service. It's a disservice to Elvis fans out there.
Elvis was very talented, and so was Trent. I mean, the range of their voice, both of them, was amazing. And people think that you just put a pair of sideburns and a jumpsuit and you're Elvis. It's more than that,
I compare it in this aspect to like a Michael Jackson, in that they're just icons, right? And you're either there's no in between. You're either a really good Michael Jackson impersonator. You got to be able to dance like nobody can dance, and sing and all that. Rarely can you see a Michael Jackson impersonator do both. It's very difficult to do. Same thing with Elvis Presley. You can see somebody like Elvis that might look like Elvis and maybe dance like Elvis, but he's not singing like Elvis. No. It's so difficult to do both.
And he had his own group when he was younger in Italy, and he was on top of the charts. And all the time people would look at him and say, you look so much like Elvis. It was like they would always pull him into the Elvis thing.
And since you're a life coach, I mean, I have to ask you this question, because we all deal with grief in our life, right? I mean, we all have. Sadly, it's part of life, and I lost my 37-year-old sister last year.
I'm so sorry.
And thank you. And, no parent should ever have to bury their daughter. It's horrible.
It's unnatural.
Right. And of course, obviously, how long were you married to your...
We were married 6 years, but Trent was very much part of our family. I mean, he would come home and have coffee with my husband.
Right. That's nice. That's nice.
We never had that. They were friends.
I think that's a tribute to everybody. You surround yourself around good people.
You need to make that decision, though. With your ex-partner.
Yeah.
You have to say, what is your priority here? Is how you feel and your ego, or is the kids?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like I remain friends with some of my ex-girlfriends, and people that know me and talk to me, or even somebody that I could, why are you talking here? I said, if it didn't end badly, they're a part of my life. I still want to remain friends with them.
At some point, they were your friends. You might not be compatible to have a life with that person, but that doesn't mean that that person doesn't have qualities that you appreciate, and that's exactly why you decided to have a relationship with them.
I'm going to give you a quick 30-second story.
Tell me.
I dated a girl from Sri Lanka. This was maybe like 12 years ago. I'm still friends with her. She's married now. 2 doctors, married to a doctor. I'm at their house 3 weeks ago for like a dinner party, maybe 20 or 30 people, nice people. And one of the guys at the table says to the husband, so how do you guys know Brian? And he says, oh yeah, Brian used to date my wife. And everybody starts laughing, but it was a good laugh. It was funny, but it was cool. Who cares? Who cares?
People will come to our house, and we had a party, and Trent was there. My ex-sister-in-law, who never says she's my ex-sister-in-law, she's my sister-in-law.
Right.
And my current sister-in-law, we have pictures of everybody, and they would say, is that the kid's father? And I would say, yeah. Oh my God, that is so cool. But again, my husband is smart enough to know that chapter in my life ended.
Sure.
but that doesn't mean that the relationship with the father of my kids is going to end.
Of course.
You know, and the priority here are the kids. So if you start thinking that way, then again, you put your ego in the back seat and you drive.
That's what isn't that what it's all about sometimes with certain people? It's about ego. You got to take the ego out and just say, this is life. This is a part of your life. It doesn't mean that I'm not devoted to you, right? But still the father of my kids. I think that's really important. So you go from 17-year-old actress to 21-year-old producer. You move to this country in your mid-20s. You're working with your ex-husband, of course, on the show. You manage the show. You produce the show, this Elvis show. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2008, you decide that you want to get into, or at least you discover, life coaching, right? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I went to an emotional intelligence seminar, and it was brutal for me going through it. So I learned so much about me that I was inspired to help others to find that as well. And in not only help me, help my relationship with Ed, it helped my relationship with my girls. I was very fortunate always to have a good bond with my daughters, but now I was talking to them in a different way. And it was at the time that my kids were small enough to learn that way. So now my kids hold me accountable as much as I hold them accountable.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you some life coaching questions because I have plenty of them.
Go ahead.
Every life, people make mistakes in their life. Obviously, nobody's perfect.
Right.
And sometimes people say, boy, if I could go back in a time machine, I would have done this differently. And then there's other people that say, hey, listen, I learned from my mistakes. I don't want to go back.
Right.
But what do you think is like the biggest mistake and maybe the easiest fix that people make in their life that maybe people could change now if you told them to? What do you think that would be?
Dwelling on the past. Because if I go to you and say, hey, Brian, I'm going to bring you back to when you're 17 and you're not going to make any of the mistakes you make until now, you wouldn't be who you are.
Right.
Because everything that you went through had taught you something. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Something stayed with you.
I'll be honest, when I do get a caller call into this show, and plenty of them, and some of them are big Trump supporters, and I call them a right-wing buffoon, I do feel a little guilty afterwards. And
you know what? And let me tell you this, and this is why, and I know I'm jumping a little bit, but this is why I wrote books for kids.
Yes, I do want to talk to you about that.
Because the trauma of the kids follow you to when you are an adult. And oftentimes, we talk about Trump supporters, and I think everybody has the right to do whatever they want to do. That's their choices.
Sure.
But I see a lot of similarities in a lot of them. And I don't want to get into I don't want to open a can of worms, but I see similarities in the sense that a lot of the reactions are trauma responses.
So I completely know where you're going with that, and I agree with you. And again, not to open up a can of worms because we don't need to get into a political conversation, but for sake of conversation, when I see somebody like Donald Trump, he was not born that way.
No.
Nobody could be born that way. Somebody made him that way. And of course, the first person that I think of and many others is Fred, his father, who I think made him into a lunatic and a crazy person.
He didn't make him into anything. What he did was he became a billboard to him. So when you have, for example, when you have an abusive parent, okay, you have two choices. You're going to become an abusive parent yourself, or you're going to be totally the opposite of that parent. But sometimes people get lost in the mix, and they're like, I want to look like him, but I don't feel I have what it takes to be like him. So in the process of growing up, you start creating all these limiting beliefs that hold you back. So then when you're an adult, you cannot have relationships because you don't think you're worthy. That you become a bully because you want to be important. You have spaces in your memory when you were a kid that you don't remember, so you make up stories because you don't want to say you don't remember. Maybe you grow up with a parent that beat the heck out of you every day. In your mind, because it's a response to trauma, delete those memories.
Right.
So you fill them up with something else.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So I think in an aspect, every human being has some sense of insecurity somewhere, right?
Right.
But I say to myself, like, it's one thing if you're your typical 12-year-old girl, and everybody has their own insecurities, or 12-year-old boy. But then when I see somebody like Trump and how insecure he is as a human being, where does that come from?
He never felt loved.
You think that's what it is? Yeah.
100%. I mean, like, because I don't think that, and I might not be in agreement with you for what I'm going to say. I don't think the man is stupid.
No, I don't think he's stupid.
He's very
I think
smart
he says a lot of stupid things, but
he does.
Yeah.
He does. But he also is very smart in the way he markets himself, in the way he manipulates people.
Sure.
He's not a stupid man.
I agree. You'll be surprised to know, as much as I can't stand him, I've never gone on the air and said, Donald Trump, you are a dummy, you are stupid.
I don't think
I have
he's
said he
stupid.
said a lot of stupid things.
Right.
And he's mentally ill. He's
but that is
disturbed,
the danger about him. I mean,
Right.
Hitler also wasn't stupid.
Right.
But look what he did.
Right, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
So-
there are some people in office that I'll look at, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'll say she's obviously not a very intelligent person.
Right.
She's not educated. She's dumb. I can say that about.
She's not bright, and she makes
Yeah,
a lot of
she's not-
mistakes, and she says
yeah.
a lot of dumb
Or
things.
a Lauren Boebert. There are people that I could say not a very intelligent person.
Mhm.
I've never said that. You're right. Trump is very good at manipulating the media and using the media to his advantage.
But
and
where did
marketing.
he learn that? He grew up in a home, probably, when
Right.
he saw this. He didn't know how to play with those tools,
Right.
until he was an adult. But he also had a huge need of belonging.
Yeah.
So what he did, and that's something that I always like to talk about, the belonging and the fitting in. When you try to fit in, you're going to modify your behavior, and you're going to become somebody that you're not because you want to be part of it.
What would you say to somebody, though, that doesn't want to talk about the past? Like, I did a segment today talking about Don Lemon interviewing Elon Musk. And in that interview, Don Lemon's trying to ask him about, people that have suffered, racial issues
Right.
or sexuality. And Elon Musk basically says, like a lot of people say, I don't want to talk about the past. I just want to talk about the future. They want to get rid of books. They don't want to, they'll complain about critical race theory, which, by the way, I don't even really think really exists anyway. But they don't want to talk about past atrocities. It could be slavery or anything. And they just want to move to the future. Like, I say, like, they don't want to talk about it because maybe it makes them uncomfortable, or maybe they don't have a problem with it. I don't know. But why would someone talk like that?
I think that when people don't want to talk about the past is because they don't want to be accountable. They don't want to take any responsibility for whatever they were part of. It's very easy to just look the other way and say, you know what, out of sight, out of mind, I don't want to think about it. It's in the past. Let's just think about the present. Well, the present is the consequence of the past. So whatever we're living right now is because somebody else and ourselves make those choices
Right.
that brought us here.
Mhm.
Even if you have the worst circumstances, you have the choice to deal with that circumstance one way or the other way.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So when you deal with something and you have a bad result and you don't want to be accountable, you don't want to talk about it.
What do you think social media has done to our kids and done to society?
I'm so glad my kids are in their 20s, late 20s and 30s, because I have clients that talk to me about their kids and what they go through and the peer pressure. I mean, I remember peer pressure when my kids were in 9th grade was like, you're fat and I don't like your outfit. That was peer pressure. Now it's like bullying kids through the internet.
Yeah.
In private messages.
Yeah.
I mean, parents find their kids, overdosing or drinking or killing themselves, and girls go and sleep with 10 boys because they want to, again, belong when they're trying to do is shrinking to fit in.
Right.
So it's a horrible thing. And I think that we are getting distracted with so many other things in the world, and we're not paying attention to what is happening. And again, going back to my books, is because I don't want those children of today to grow up to be traumatic, toxic relationship people in the future.
And we've talked a little bit about you being an actress and a producer and a life coach, but yes, you have a series of children's books that I wanted you to talk about. When did you decide to do this?
This was a project that I had for a long, long time, and I have it sitting down. And when I started promoting I was going to different podcasts a couple of years ago promoting my other book for women, 88 lessons to encourage and empower women. One of the guys that was talking to me in one of the shows was a publisher. And after the show, we talk about my books that I have written. And he says, why don't you do it? And then I went ahead and did it. And the surprising thing is that these books has become kind of like my everyday thing now. They have it in some schools here. They have it in Peru. Now they are available in Colombia, Venezuela, and Brazil. They're in different places because parents don't have the tools sometimes to communicate with kids about difficult subjects. You know, parents get divorced and they're pointing their fingers.
Right.
And what you were saying before, grieving.
Right.
You know, we go through so many stages of grieving, and we go through all these stages even when we get fired because we feel rejected and we're losing something.
Yeah.
So when you start explaining a child what grieving is, you know, and accepting the fact that that person is no longer in our life, then that kid is going to grow understanding, first of all, rejection in a much better way because it's not personal,
Right.
you know, and then they're going to understand that the person that they loved didn't abandon them. They just die. And we all have, like, you know, the circle of life, how we call that, you know, you're born and then you live your life and then you die.
Right.
Everybody, the plants do that, the birds do that, you know. But when you don't have the tools to talk to the kid is going to go again to the internet and they're going to find whatever answers they are available for
It's
them.
like we don't have human interaction anymore.
No.
Right? And I think, you know, listen, cell phones first, I'm old, cell phones first came out when I was in high school, and you know, I'm part of the problem. I'm on my cell phone way too much. Usually it's doing work and stuff, but it's very distracting. Even people that go to a concert or a show, you know, they're living through their phone instead of
we
living.
see everything through the phone.
Instead of living in the moment,
Yeah,
right? And it's
yeah.
like I find myself doing that, and I try to stop myself. But it's like you always want to try to capture something on a video or something. It's like, how about just live in the moment and have memories? And yeah, I think that's a big problem. How do people purchase your books? And I was on your website yesterday. It's a great website. Give out that
Thank you.
website and how people can purchase these
my
books.
website is my name, Claudia Noriega Bernstein, and my Instagram is the same. I'm very good answering. You know, I mean, one of our videos went viral the other day. It had 270,000 shares.
Wow.
It was
Which
crazy.
platform?
And Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's a
and
lot.
and there were, like, you know, a lot of comments, and I love to interact with people. I love to communicate with them. You know, I think we have lost that with the internet and the
You're right.
social media and everything else. So when I have an opportunity to talk to somebody
Yeah.
one-on-one, I'm there.
Absolutely. You're the opposite of Elon Musk. I don't think he wants to do that. But, well, Claudia, it's a pleasure having you in, and it's a breath of fresh air to hear, you know, basically, you know, when a life coach, I think we all need a life coach. That's just my personal opinion. I don't care who you are. You're not perfect. We all need a life coach. We all need guidance. We all need help and just advice, guidance, advice, right? And I think it's awesome what you're doing. And I'd love to have you on again soon because there's plenty of other topics I could definitely ask you about. So I'd love to have you back in and give out that website one more time so people can find it.
It's Claudia Noriega Bernstein.com.
All right. Check it out, everybody. Check it out, and we will see you tomorrow. That's a wrap. Subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. I don't have my own website, and I am not a life coach, and I am not an actor. I am not a producer, although kind of on this show I am, I guess, but that's where Numchuck comes in. But check me out at PTL Radio Show. Thank you, everybody, for listening on the FMAM dial. Of course, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, and tomorrow on the show, we're going to have a member from Turning Point USA joining us. No, it's not going to be Charlie Kirk. But a man who has, I guess, paid Kyle Rittenhouse to speak at a college campus. I think you can call that controversial. I like doing interviews like that, so we will have him on tomorrow. And Paul McKeskey will be joining us in studio as well. That's a wrap, everybody. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and